Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Messages for Humanity from Sue Tobin and myself, Mich Carpenter. Welcome back, and we are so excited to be back here again today with all the craziness that's happening in the world. Sue, we discussed that we wanted to talk about bliss and trust today, but what we thought of doing was perhaps holding a vigil for all the loss at Bondi Beach, all the people that are in shock, trauma. Yeah, it's been a really hard few days, I think, across the world to even see this happening in the world. How do you
Yeah,
feel about it?
it's dramatic, it's sad, it's the way the world is at the moment. Um, there's a form of acceptance we have to kind of go through and acknowledge what is actually happening, um, and how we can support these people, even if it's mentally, if it's meditation, mentally, or healing. Um, it's a way of supporting them. These things are going to happen, unfortunately. And no one can stop this really,
Mm.
which is the great sadness from it, and the great sadness of people losing their relatives or their friends. So I think that, you know, um, a meditation, a small kind of blessing to just send across to Sydney, um, might help them in one way.
Yeah,
And that
and
knowing
it's
that we're thinking of them.
absolutely, and it's a ripple effect because it's not
Mm.
just only those that have lost loved ones. It's everybody that was involved. Everybody was fleeing when we looked at the videos. They just looked like ants that were running. And when I hold on to your words of, learning acceptance is so challenging for me. Oh my gosh, it's so challenging because it's almost like you can see the pendulum, the two sides, but it's actually more than that. There's, it's a massive big star of huge change,
Mm.
because people are blaming the color of their skin, they're blaming the cultures, they're blaming the governments. There's just a lot of chaotic energy
And
out there. Yeah,
yeah, it's anger, and people will blame when there's anger. If you've got anger, you will blame.
yeah,
If you don't just stand back and say, well, what is this?
yeah,
We will automatically blame, look for reasons why. Um, and let's just kind of stand back and not do the why, support each other.
mm,
I mean, this is a kind of, to me, a picture showing us how we should be reacting, how we should be connecting to ourselves inside, our enlightened selves inside, so that it's um, not getting caught with ego. This is what we must do. This is how we should do it. These are the people that should go, or whatever, making these judgments. Um, where does it get us? Where does it
gosh.
get us?
Such a great question. And it's so the flip side of that, my head's going, well, how do we not judge? How do we sit in looking at from every angle, and it's just a challenging time. It's a real
It
hard
is.
thing to go through. Yeah.
And one of the biggest hurdles is acceptance. I mean, that's a very big learning. And people say, how do you do that? How do you do that? Because all of these are grief. They're all parts of grief.
Yeah.
We've got to go through grief when something happens like this.
Yeah.
And then eventually accepting, because as days goes on, it gets a bit softer, it gets a bit softer. You still think about it, but it's not quite in your face.
Yeah.
And acceptance is really important because if we live in the anger, this shouldn't happen, it's just like, it causes all sorts of problems. Yes, the government might change. Yes, these things might change if we stand up and say they should change. But it's when we get attached to it should, it must. When we get attached to that,
Yeah.
we are suffering ourselves and causing more suffering when there's already enough suffering out there. So it's being able to join together, support one another, be kind to one another, turn the coin around the other way. Don't stay in the sufferings all the time. Don't look for reasons for the sufferings. Look for how can we be kind? How can we move forward? How can we support one another? Because if our anger takes over, we too are going to be in grief and sufferings for a long time.
That's such a big one, It's like
Mm.
my head's going to so many different places right now where I'm thinking, okay, so I know in the UK, as an example, you've had these, people standing together. And I've seen it on social media, and I think, yes, that's incredible. But as it so happens, the reptilian brain is the one that goes into the ego, the fight, flight, fright, and there's ultimately a caveman inside every single one of us.
Yeah.
And it looked like it was peaceful protests, but then it escalated. And what's been so fascinating, just with various, that's why I say my head's going like, oh, wow, 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 just in terms of what has been showing up in just in my world in the last few days was, I remember when I lived back in South Africa. Now, we, in the last 20 years, 25 years of South Africa, gunshots weren't an abnormal thing to us where we lived in Johannesburg. It was just something that we could wake up to weekly at any time of the night. So my husband's very in tune with what a gunshot sounds like, okay? I just wake up and I just want to hide under the bed. But just before we immigrated to New Zealand, a friend of mine had said, I said to her, I'm just angry. I'm angry at the separation. I'm angry at just life. I'm angry, but I was angry at the choices that we felt forced to make, which wasn't actually true. It was a version of my story that I was telling myself. Because yes, we decided to immigrate because we'd been affected by crime. And I said to her, wow, because she had been in a few multiple armed robberies, my friend, where she realized being in acceptance, and her children were part of the armed robberies where they had to be face down, and she said she realized being a part of the acceptance was not provoking, not just, so I'm giving various
Yeah.
stories here
Yeah.
because you just in that moment have to accept that this is happening, and you just have to be as best as you can, because now you're protecting your children anyway. And I said to her, well, how did you not want to kill these people? And she said, Mish, be careful what you wish for.
Mm.
And within a week to 2 weeks of that coming out of my mouth, unbeknownst to me, like where we lived was just crazy. It was chaos. And I was driving our van that we had at the time, and there was an armed robbery that took place, and the guys, the robbers, had crashed into another woman that was turning, and they climbed out the car, and I saw them run in front of my van and throw their guns into a nursery. And it was just chaos because it was a huge traffic light and everybody was hooting, not knowing what was going on. And I'm hooting and I'm watching the armed response guys, and then the police are there and I'm going, they're in, because they ran straight past me. And I'm trying to, in this chaos, trying to find a space of control. But it's just, how do you?
Mm.
And the driver of the armed robbers had broken his foot. And I realized how quick that mob mentality happens because I was angry. But I was angry at what of the choices that I was making for my own family. So I wasn't in acceptance or surrender. I just felt all this emotion, all this energy, all this, and I brought it into my space with this story.
Mm.
And it's deeply traumatic. It's the trauma that I was still feeling, which I hadn't accessed, I think, as yet. But what had actually happened was, with myself, another guy, and probably 25 other people of all different colors. And it's not about the colors. I want everybody to know that it's just how quick people come together, whether it's the anger that brings you together or the kindness and compassion that brings us together.
That was
Because
quite
it's,
exciting.
yeah, it's like walking that tightrope. And the armed responders, the security guards, had to break us like kind of free, and they were saying, "Okay, guys, let's just simmer down." And they were probably the true heroes, because we truly were like angry at this armed robber, and he couldn't run. He was there. He was.
We were going to
and
get him.
and I'm ashamed to even share this, but it's part of my story. It's part of where I just realized, like, oh my God, I brought this into my space so quickly, and I had flip-flops on, and I wanted to get him, Sue. If it wasn't for the fact that I had flip-flops on, but the security guard is like, guys, we just, the police are going to be here. And they eventually found the guys in the nursery. They got them into the police van. But I was just so saddened. The depth of actually what I was truly feeling was the sadness. But the anger rises up so quickly.
Mm.
And I think that this is going to be, for me, the ripple effect of what people are feeling and sensing right now
That's
for
right.
Australia, for the
Mm.
United Kingdom, for the world collectively. How do we talk to that? How do we, I know we wanted to talk about bliss and trust.
Ourselves? Are we talking to ourselves when we're talking about this? Because our life, I believe, has been planned in our karma. We're all going to go through sufferings. We'll see them in different ways, feel them in different ways. So, yes, you're shown this picture of someone being attacked, someone being caught, someone injured from the attack that actually caused the attack. There are professionals to deal with this. It's kind of standing back and let knowing in that moment, pausing. There are professional people that will deal with this. Now, when you get a group of people, it's not only the anger, or a single person, it's not only the anger of the scene you've just seen. Everything will come up that's built up in your anger. You've got an excuse to
Gotcha.
release that anger. And put that all together, you've got one huge big anger. Like it did in the UK when it accelerated and got out of control, because it wasn't just a demonstration. I didn't see it, so I'm just going by what you said, so I haven't seen it. But it's the anger that builds up. Should we or shouldn't we express this in a different way because we have this built-in anger? Or should we stand back, let the professional people take over? Yes, we can demonstrate. Yes, we can put our points of view across. But when it crosses the line into sheer anger that we are storing, that's not going to help anyone. Yourself you will put in sufferings, in trauma, in all, even though you're in trauma anyway, from looking at the scene, it's a different type, because you can go into deep anger then, which can be, it will just accelerate the trauma more.
Yeah.
So it's minimizing your trauma, recognizing it, but not accelerating it to being out of control. Because somewhere along the line it'd be good to look at your trauma. But the moment when these situations happen, um, it's standing back, like talking about something just like the dog attacking the child, on the beach in India. I could have stepped in and done something, but do I want to get bitten and then cause another trauma and then another situation that other people have to deal with and bring their anger out, because there's something else that's happened? So it's learning to be in that pause again, watching, witnessing what is going on before you act.
Okay, so this, I'm so grateful you said that again because there's there's been flickers, there's been moments where I thought, oh, we've got to talk about this because it's such a learning to be in the pause. Now, something that I've questioned is there are times where I feel like I've been in the pause, but then afterwards I berate myself for being in the pause because I should have done something.
Is that ego coming out with should have done something, blaming you, like
More
in the
than
past when you should have taken action from a
got you.
conditioning?
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I suppose so.
It's, because we've got all these conditionings built in us, and it's just like, what is the reason behind it of your action? What is your intention? Where does it come from? Does it come from the heart, or does it come from anger? Has it come from fear, from a conditioning and a reaction?
Yeah, I think all of the above. And I was wondering because I think this is where meditation most certainly has helped me, and I know it helps many, and we've spoken about this before. Do you feel called to perhaps do a meditation for just to come back to every single person that has been affected? It is an absolute ripple effect, and I feel like, the energy is still very high at the moment. And it's interesting that I'm even using these words because, you know, there can be such distortion in energy when it's high, and the energy is high out in the world at the moment, due to the shootings, due to how everybody is, because shock puts us into a state of almost numbness.
There's, the other side of the coin is you've got acceptance and non-acceptance. It's non-acceptance that this should happen,
Yeah,
but it's accepting what's going on and then realizing you've got to let go of this because the chances are there are going to be more scenes or similar. So if we keep kind of reacting, it's really not very good for us. And that might be on a selfish point of view, but it's the accumulation of in the ego being angry that causes this huge change of energy,
got
of
you.
anger, accumulation of it.
Yeah. So when I
Wouldn't it
talk
be nice to turn it around the other way? Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
go
Wouldn't it
for
be
it.
nice to
Yeah.
turn it around the other way instead of being in that, is being in support, love and compassion, knowing what's going on. And because soon as we kind of get into the role of not dancing the dance, we know that dancing the dance is watching the scenes and knowing that we have to go through this karma. But once you let go and have all these deep inner conditions that are there, an explosion can happen. It's like I have every right to be like this. I've gone through, I've had these things have happened to me. I have every right to demonstrate this because it's not just the one, not usually the one theme. It's part of it. And then the rest comes the conditionings around that theme, which builds up all this anger. So if we could join together, feel the connection inside of us to others, and this is permanently now, not only when there's a scene, we can support one another, because we are in a better place. We have an understanding. It's hard to have an understanding, but it can happen if we're connected to Source or God or the universe. It's standing back, joining with others in those scenes, so you get a positive strength that you are supportive, because people are going to anger feel they're not supportive,
Really? Wow.
because they're angry. So then they're not going to accept that anyway.
Got you. Okay. Yes, okay. That makes
And in
sense.
fear. So the fear comes with the anger, and then they're frightened because nobody has supported them, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it all accelerates and it can get out of hand. So it's
Yeah.
okay to say, this is not right. If you want to demonstrate this is not right, but in a peaceful way, joining together as one,
Mm-hmm.
putting your point across, but not when it gets out of control,
Mm-hmm.
when you're just hitting or fighting, whatever, just because you're really mad. You've got a lot of anger. That goes on to another level.
Yeah.
Join together, yes. Say what you need to say. It's not right, but with peace. You don't have to go with anger. That's what can happen and what is happening in some areas.
Very much so. And it does feel like a time. I mean, even if we look at just these volcanoes that are erupting and these different earthquakes, and
And that's a
we
different suffering, isn't it?
yeah
It's a different,
we yeah yeah
that's a
and
natural thing that's happening within this world. Maybe it's climate change, maybe it's not, but it's happening, and that is awful too. So, do we blame the volcano, or
no, I feel like we're a part of everything. Everything's interconnected,
are
and
we
for
the volcano?
yes, well, I just feel like, this is where energy and everything is in the energetic imprint. And there has been a huge amount of sufferings, grief, trauma, frustration, anger that's come up for these last how many years. So it's just a fascinating time about, again, trusting. And it's something that you
Yes.
and I wanted to discuss because
Yeah.
I had, just going back to that story of mine, I had no idea at that time how powerful my words were, because my friend had said to me, Mish, be careful what you wish for and what you're putting out there. And then the story appeared. I mean, this is a traffic light where thousands, hundreds of thousands of cars go past every single day. This was not even a kilometer away from my home. And there I created that for my experience as well as
From your
everybody else.
intentions.
100%. And I still thought, wow,
Mm.
sure. You can never say you're not,
Mm.
because you just never know if you're not. Like you say, it's the two sides of the coin, and where do we want to stand? And this has been kind of the discombobulation. I feel that a lot of light workers, people that have been deep diving into themselves in these many, many years, which side are we on? Where are we how do we navigate that? How do we
It's
show up
imbalance, isn't it?
in
It's
balance?
imbalance. And
Yeah.
looking at the whole picture,
So let's
not
talk
just one
about
side.
trust. Yes. So let's talk about trust, which trust what, Sue? Trust who, Sue? Trust. And it
Well,
and it is funny because I'm just thinking about myself and Brent over the weekend, how he was having a wobbly, and we stand and we process very quickly, the two of us, and he's like, and I'm like, that's it, get out your body, have a 10 to 10, and he's like, blah 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 blah, and then like 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh, I'm just feeling, so trust what?
yeah, it's trust all it comes down to responsibilities.
Mm,
If someone trusts you, then you are responsible for supporting that person. Um, that's really important, because if you don't take the responsibility, you can break that trust. because your ego has seen, oh, someone else is better at doing this, or someone else, yeah, they're much better. I'll put my trust in them. And so people are changing their trusts all the time. You know, that's going to be more beneficial to me. And the trust is broken. So we're looking at trust again on the double-sided coin of trust. Who can we trust? I think it's kind of, you've got to, again, tune into the inner self to you in that pause. Use the wisdom. And it's surprising what you can see when you do that. When you can see the way people talk, how they say things, what their intentions are. And as you kind of analyze this, you're going into, yes, I probably could trust them. And then you learn to trust. But when that's broken because that person has found someone maybe more suitable for them, perhaps using the trust, perhaps not, you are left then kind of discombobulated. Why did that happen? I really trusted them. I shared everything with them. But that you have to kind of, it's not giving all. If you give all, and I don't mean kind of don't give the love and compassion. The love and compassion has to be all. But as a personality, if you become the victim and give all, it's like handing it on the plate to people. You see, so although you are trusting, they are going to be trusting, it can turn around and be used as a weapon. So it's having that knowledge of, how do I trust? How do I trust?
Yeah,
Is
how
that,
do you know? How do
yeah,
you
how do you know? So you're looking at, is this person coming from, compassion and love all the time, or is it only sometimes? Or is it most of the time? Or have you seen something else? So you're taking in this information, but you're not listening.
Yes.
Listening is a massive skill. It's not just listening, it's listening. It's listening. It's a very big skill to learn because your ego will go this way and your ego will that way. Well, if you go back in the pause, listen. That's where you find the listening skills. Listen. Listen, look at the reactions, look at the person, listen to what they're saying, every word, and about others. Are they talking about others? If they're talking a lot about others, you then have to question, are they talking about me?
Sorry.
So, yeah,
I'm
I
like,
know.
yeah, I'm,
You're lost.
no, not at all. Because I'm like, I kind of want to hold up this placard and go, yep,
It's me.
you're like, I'm so naive. Like, damn it, come on. Like, seriously, sucker.
Yeah,
But it's,
because your strength can be ended up their strengths, which can cause a weakness for you, because people are unfortunately in fear and want to have the knowledge, want to know this, want to know that. And then you can be the victim of kind of the odd little kind of word, sentence, um, to make you question who you are. Do you think that's right, Michelle? Do you think you should kind of look at it another way? And you start questioning yourself. You become the victim as you go into the spiral of kind of what is being set up that might be unknown to the person that's doing it. The awareness is not there. It's not blaming that person. The awareness is not there. And the
mm.
ego may be wanting something different.
So how come we would bring people that you're speaking about into our space? Like, what is the learning for? Because it's I think it's such a, for me, it most certainly has been a challenge in terms of trust. And I love what we are talking about this week because it's literally been the last few days where I've had connections with people where we all within a group are learning to trust one another, and there's been this, this upheaval that's been happening in the background. And I say in the background because it's like, okay, well, that story's happening there, that story's happening there. But confrontation is something that I think a lot of us perhaps also don't understand. How do we find out the version of who to trust? And why do we bring people in? I know we don't like talking about the why, but we bring people into our space for the learning. Is it to trust ourselves? And because this is part of the journey where I think so many people kind of go, ah, you have an empath who could bring a narcissistic person into their space. What's the learning? There's toxic, there's energetic vampires that go with that too. So I love your words when I hear you and listen, because there are warning signs, but some of us are a little bit slow.
Yeah, but we're not perfect. None of us are perfect, So do we accept we are not perfect, or do we judge and say that person shouldn't have done that? That person really shouldn't have done that to me, for me. It's for me or to me? No, it's for you. Look at the learning. Look at the learning from it. When people are in ignorance of who they are, ego will play the games. Ego will play games with you and the other person. And so it's standing back, learning about in the pause, in the moment, in the present time. You're not in ego. And then this bit of wisdom will come up and think, looking at both sides of the coin of trust, we support it all, not one side or the other. We support ourselves, we support the other person that's decided not to trust or go forward with you. It's giving forgiveness for them,
Yeah, that's a
forgiveness
big
to
one.
ourselves for
Yes.
believing and giving ourselves a hard time. Why did we believe in these people? When they've done this for me, not to me. So this forgiveness is really important, but it's listening. It's listening. We're not perfect and there will be mistakes. And some of the time those mistakes will be obvious because they're deliberate for whatever reason. Maybe because that person is in fear. Or they're not. It's because of our own ignorance. I didn't realize I did that.
Mm.
Perhaps I projected. Perhaps I didn't. But you've got to be careful of looking at it all and trusting source inside of us being who we are,
So
love and compassion.
we do bring those experiences into our space for the learning. So somebody who's
Absolutely.
an empath will bring. Do you believe this? That somebody who's an empath would bring somebody who has narcissistic tendencies to bring the learning, to say no, to find boundaries?
I wouldn't say bring. I think is ignorance. Nobody brings sufferings.
Wow.
They happen. We're in this karma, and we're going through the karmic life of having to go through sufferings. Now, how we look at it is how we progress or not progress.
Mm.
And if in the present moment, it's having a knowing,
Mm.
it's having a knowing, a guidance which way to go. And if it falls down, if it falls apart, you've tried.
Mm.
You are compassionate, you are um, supportive, you are reliable. You've done all the things that you think are right. If people still want to go with their ego and say, but it's not enough,
Mm.
now I've taken a lot of information from you, you've given me a lot, then it's down to their karma and what they will have to go through.
Mm.
If people don't react in the right way, then they're going to cause sufferings for themselves. Well, we have to look at is how we're looking at it after it's happened. Say, like trust, someone's walked away and you trusted them for years, absolutely no doubt. And then they suddenly cut off and go somewhere else. They prefer someone else to get attached to, saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, will you support me? It's part of life. And it's looking at that, well, you forgive those people, you'll still carry on who you are, because that's the most important thing in your life, is like, your intentions in life.
Mm.
The word intentions is really very important. The word of listening is really important.
Mm.
Um, and just being who you are, being honest. People will hurt you. Is it allowing the hurt, though? Yes, you can feel it, but don't let it get buried, like, so it comes up as an anger in a demonstration.
Mm.
So each moment, each day is a learning. And if people choose to go another way, then accept, because acceptance is really important.
Mm.
It's part of your journey of learning. Yes, it doesn't mean you can't trust anymore. If you trust in yourself, what else do you need?
Got you.
Don't self-blame unless you've actually caused something to happen, like I'm doing this to push you away. That's another way of looking at it.
Mm.
But there's a new journey ahead. Once you accept there's a new journey, it will bring in lots of love and compassion and sufferings, because we're here in this karmic life. It's to be able to expect the unexpected. One of the greatest learnings.
Sorry. It's like expect the unexpected.
Yes, yeah,
It's
because
great. It's
it's going to
awesome. It's
happen.
amazing. It's woohoo! No, seriously. That's what
And
I
then why
said.
me? Why me?
It's so that for me and for so many clients that I've had the privilege of walking the journey with is it's stepping out of that victimhood.
Yes.
But there's a big but. It's when I am not in a space of compassion that the learning is for me to step up a level, to be in more compassion, because the but is what brings me down. The but is where I notice people that are still in the why me.
So why?
And
What is it when you're stepping up, or what are you doing when you're stepping up and looking at it in a different way, or acting in a different way, or reacting in a different way? What are you doing?
I overanalyze at times, and
No, but
then
what happens?
oh,
What is
when I'm
that
stepping
process?
up,
Like
oh,
when you're
my
stepping up?
process, my vibration gets quicker, my lessons get quicker. And that's when I go into a space of victim and I'm like, oh, I, what else? I just wish I. Blah, 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 blah. Shh. So that's what it feels like. It just feels like things they happen quicker, just like this experience of being in Johannesburg, South Africa. It was, and I didn't even know how quickly it was happening for me.
So how would you change that? You go through the same scene again. How would you change that now?
Witness it, watch it,
One
not
word, witness.
not get
Witness.
involved. Yeah, not retaliate. There was a retaliation that I felt like I was in the war
Mm.
with, obviously, with all of this, the loss I was going through, the grieving I was going through of saying goodbye to my family, my friends, my life that I'd known for countless years. And even though I know it was a definitive choice to
Mm.
leave South Africa, there was a lot of blame. So how would I change that? I would witness. I'd become the witness to my journey, the witness to observe that specific incident, you know, tell the policeman where the guys were, where the guns were, and then just say,
Understand.
I went to go look to see the woman who was crashed into, the paramedics were there. I just went to go and hold her hand and see if she's okay.
It's
I
important.
don't even remember how, was it this that happened first? But I feel like it was checking, you kind of like a checklist, like that's what
Yes,
it feels
you're
like.
supporting in the best way you can,
Yeah, yeah.
without
But
getting too
then,
involved
yes, but then got
emotionally.
involved. Yes, yeah, got it. Instead of
You
just
get
coming back in my,
attached.
yeah,
You get attached to your emotions.
yeah,
Again, it comes back to attachments.
yeah.
But actually, if you are willing to change and look at that again, um, as like, yes, this has happened. Pause. What do I do next? Go and see the injured. Get the ambulance. Get this, that. Get the police. And then leave the rest to the responsibility of the ones who know their profession.
Mm,
Otherwise, you go in ignorance and can be badly hurt or without the awareness.
yeah.
But what are we doing when we're doing that? What are we doing when we're looking at it differently? You're
Well,
becoming a witness.
yeah, I'd love to loop in you being the witness when you were in the jungle. And for those who have only just, well, that beautiful story keeps popping up. And for you who are new to, the messages from for humanity and listening to Sue and I, there's one of the most beautiful stories that Sue has witnessed and experiences those two gentlemen. The one had well, they both had AIDS, and the one had TB, and how they were being looked after, and how, the Council of Eight had shared how that's true enlightenment when we look after each other.
Mm.
That's true awareness. That's being witness to the journey. How you were, I can only imagine you felt so helpless, and then you were rushing in, and then, the caretaker said, no, because you've got to stop. Sometimes we just got to stop in our steps.
That was pausing for some time, just pausing them, accepting that's the way it is. Then when you see someone in extreme, extreme pain that is bleeding to death slowly because their liver is going to burst, what I was told, it's a slow, slow death until it happens. The pain is excruciating, there's no medication, no one can sleep in the whole hospice for those 6 weeks. You're all exhausted, you're beyond. It's almost like the SAS when they put the headphones on these people who want to be kind of in the to join the SAS and put the headphones on to test them with a baby crying day and night, day and night. They have to live with these headphones, and if they can get over that, they'll be fit enough to go to the SAS. And please don't say I'll be fit enough to go to the SAS. Because I failed at the end. And it's not failure, it's just like after 6 weeks of going through that and the total, total exhaustion of not being able to do anything,
Yeah,
not being able to get medication, I just kind of lost it for a moment and said, went with ego, I'm going to walk out to the monastery 8 kilometers away, and I know the abbot will help me. I know something will happen, whether it's natural medication or whatever, or if they took him somewhere else. But these are just in your head. And as soon as I started walking away down the little tiny path before you get into the deep jungle, it just dropped in. This is not the way to go. Just that moment of pause. Let
yeah,
the ego go. And that's when the caretaker said, you will die if you keep running or walking towards the jungle and go out there on your own. You will die.
yeah,
Which I knew. I knew. But it was that letting that ego come in just for that moment and then recognizing it and thinking, except there's nothing you can do. So I turned around and had the odd tear and walked past and looked into the room again. And it was just like a recognition of hearing the pain again and just looking ahead and going straight to the big room where the other patients were, where another trauma happened. It's accepting
Yeah.
when there's absolutely nothing you can do. There's no good me
Yes.
screaming, shouting, being angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
make
that's,
yourself in sufferings
yeah.
more.
Well, it's so instantaneous, and it's so like can happen at a millisecond at a time, because you you know, and again, guys, if you just go back and look at the videos, because and Sue has such a depth of a story, and she truly walks her journey. You know, we have a saying, walk your talk, and Sue's rewriting her book, and it's incredible. I mean, when I share the story with others, they get goosebumps. You know, and I can't tell it the way you tell it, because you were there
I mean, it's, yeah.
and you're in it, and that's the beauty of just what these two beautiful human beings, that they were going through what they were going through, and how this one gentleman stepped up for the other. But you know, the millisecond changes, you know, there was nothing you could do, and then you went and you helped the other person that you needed to help in the hospice. And it's just incredible, you know. And that's it's part of us being human. It's part of us having this resilience. It's part of us having this inner strength, that will come back. Like, we're all coming back to re-knowing who we are.
That's
This is something I truly believe in, the blissfulness of life. You know, as much as I have these moments and how we discuss our stories, and I was sharing this with the group yesterday in the portal, how none of us will ever, ever, ever understand anybody else's journey. Ever,
no, no, they're
ever,
all
ever.
different sufferings.
We can
But
step
we
in, we can, yes,
would understand if we, sorry to interrupt, but we would understand once we pause, come back into it, and learn to do this all the time so you get into the present time. You will see, you will understand everybody else's sufferings, you will understand their depth.
because you see it from everybody's place of knowing.
And it's, yeah, yeah, of understanding. That's
Yes.
right.
So you're seeing it
Without
from a place
judgment.
of, yes. So you're
So
seeing it from
you
a,
go into that depth of sufferings, which is general, you know, they may have different levels, but there's sufferings that you can see from that distance in the awareness, from the feelings, from the, although feelings don't really come into the awareness, the awareness is just being aware. We have to use these concepts, which is really difficult. You know, it's not really explaining what awareness is, but it's having a knowing of who you are, having a knowing that these people are suffering, and excuse me, and knowing how to help them in their level of suffering, having that, because you can see it in the awareness. You can see it, you can see the sufferings, you can see the depth, you can see what level they're at, where they are, where how they are looking at it, but the sufferings are all the same.
so I love what you're sharing, because, and I think what I want to say is it's so interesting how we all have our various perceptions of life.
Mm.
And we were recently in Egypt, as you know, and we went into one of the one of the oldest Jewish churches, and I can't remember the name right off the top of my head. And I saw a woman who was on the journey with us, and I said to her, was there anything we could do differently? And just asking her feedback, and such a beautiful human being. And she was on this journey of searching, 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 you know, and she'd been searching in her spiritual, on her spiritual journey for a very long time. And she was guided by the Council of Eight to come to Egypt. And she's like, I don't understand why I'm here, because I'm, you know, not spiritual like everybody else. And I just kept saying, you're clearly meant to be here. Just trust in you, you know, because there's such a distortion even in with a lot of people who are, what does it mean to be spiritual in any case? So what she reminded me of was, we'd all worked walked out of the church, and it was beautiful. And I can't remember if I was one of these people, but I did ask her, and she said, "Oh, people walked out and went, oh, it's so heavy in there." And and she said there was a suggestion, just touch the tree that was outside. And I said, was I one of those people? I remember this happening, but I don't remember feeling if it was heavy, and she said, well, there were just others around, and you suggested just touch the tree. And I said to her, I'm so sorry that that was said, because nothing is ever heavy unless you make it heavy. Nothing is ever, it's that perception of life. I mean, what would make this beautiful old synagogue church heavy? Because it's, you could look at the light fittings and go, wow, wow, those are so special. They're so old. Wow. It's all like, I feel like some of us have been deceived, Sue. We've been
Absolutely.
deceived in,
We're
we've been,
always we've always been deceived because we're
yeah,
in this karma. It's just like
yeah,
we believe in what we see. So
yeah.
we are vulnerable.
Wow. Yeah.
And how would you feel if you
Yes.
walked into a concentration camp and it's now empty, it's still standing there, and you walk through the buildings? How would you feel then? You know.
Yeah, well, I can talk to that because when I went into Auschwitz when I was 19, I felt very nauseous, not knowing why I felt nauseous. Whatever, I could have made 100 different stories out of it and said, oh, it was because I had a past life there. It was because
Mm.
of this. It was because I felt for the people that I don't know. To this day, I don't know. But I just feel like it's a sensation of what the story's about, because you can, there's a part of us that can put ourselves in to that space and go, wow, what did these people feel? I don't know, does that add up?
Well, that we've all got stories. It's basically we all have stories, and some of our stories are tragic.
Mm,
For whatever reason we needed to go through. Um, what happened to those people after? We don't know. They could have been enlightened. We have no idea.
mm,
Have no idea why they were put there. Everybody's got their karma to go through and their sufferings, whether it's physical, mentally. You're going to die. With the people die in wars anyway. They get shot dead.
mm,
So again, it's how we create our own stories and drama, because we're creating whatever we think, whatever an intention is, we're creating another story.
mm.
Yes, except it was absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
Absolutely devastating, not only to them, but of course their families that have lived.
Mm.
Um, and I learned a lot from talking to the people from the concentration camps
Wow.
and how they were dealing with it, how they lost. One girl, she, the whole village was shot, were actually brought outside, dragged outside, and all shot, lined up and shot. But she was shot in the leg and she dropped down and pretended she was dead. Even though they were still checking them, whatever, she was completely still. And then when the army left, and she raised her head, everybody was dead except for her. Now,
Wow.
who's in the sufferings? Who's in the most sufferings?
I would assume she is, because she's been
Mm.
left with all of that.
Nothing. And she lost her leg through it.
Mm.
So she was a young girl in her 20s and explaining the story, what had happened. The good thing is we could send her to another support group just outside who would support her and guide her for the rest of her life, sort of thing, that she could always go back and forth to them, and develop her new story, her new life, her new path. So you see, it's how we look at sufferings, how we interpret.
Mm.
So it's very important, but there are ways of dealing with it, and that always comes back to being present. That always comes back to learning about the pause.
Mm.
silence, stillness, which very few people do. And that's why meditation is very beneficial. Not because you're sitting there in stillness, it's what arises in the stillness.
So my suggestion would be, instead of me channeling tonight, would you be okay to finish off with a meditation? And I feel like stillness is so much of what, I need right now and the world perhaps needs. So would you be okay with that? And then I can channel sometime during the week and we can talk about bliss and trust and sufferings and everything else. And this may seem like a heavy conversation, but it's part of what we're kind of disclosing and sharing with everyone, so that we all have our journeys, and sometimes the journey feels uncomfortable, but here we are. Here we are, as I want to say, as best as we can, sharing the experiences, which brings resilience, which brings an, us back to our knowing once again,
And to everybody else's knowing, as
and to
everybody else
everybody
is
else.
kind of experiencing.
Yes.
So that's what love and compassion is. It's not just you feeling, oh, I want to give out love and compassion.
Yeah.
It's it's actually knowing what those people are feeling and supporting them where they are. So it's not all about you, it's how to give that love and compassion to them as well as yourself. You
Yeah.
can't do that unless you do it to yourself first, knowing what it's like.
Right.
Then you can share that. And the only way you can have love and compassion is actually being in the present time. So
Would you be
it's
keen to do that, Sue? Just do a
absolutely
meditation for us and bring us into love and compassion in your beautiful
ourselves,
way?
our inner being,
Yeah.
connecting. We're just using connection as
Beautiful.
a support.
Beautiful. Well, if we can make it like 10 minutes, that'll be
Yes.
wonderful. And yeah, thank you.
Okay. So we make ourselves comfortable, lower the shoulders, lower the breathing. Breathe in the lower part of the abdomen. You can actually place your hands on the lower part of your abdomen. So when you breathe in, the abdomen will go out. When you breathe out, the abdomen will go in. So practice that for a moment or two. So all the pressure comes away from the heart area. Don't force it, just let it be natural. Now, as we're doing this meditation, I want you to be aware we have an inner being deep, deep within. It's just off center from the heart. A connection Source, to God, to the universe. Like changing the channel on the radio. Turn it to a higher vibration, connecting to who we really are from Source, from God, from the universe. We are full of light inside as well as outside. Connect to that light in our being. Of who we are. Accept. Listen inwardly. Feel that lightness or lightless. The lightness within. As we connect to that source, connect to everyone around us who also have this connection, whether they're aware of it or not. So we're like molecules connecting to one another. All around in this earth place. No judgment, no anger, just connection to all. In stillness. If you hear a noise, a dog barking, a door closing or opening. Acknowledge, then let go. Come back. Come back to that being inside. Be in the awareness of seeing in a different way. With love and full compassion. Having an understanding of others. Connect. Stay in this place for just 2 minutes. Silent. Connect to others as you come out of your stillness. connect to their sufferings in Sydney or elsewhere. Their sufferings are the same as your sufferings. Become aware of the breath. Slowly opening the eyes into this life where we can learn yet again.
Thank you, Sue. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation and messages for humanity. As you can see, I'm very spacey right now. Please join us. Pardon?
We're just connecting.
Yeah.
It makes us in stillness.
Yeah. Please keep being here. And thank you for those of you who are. And thank you for this beautiful, deep conversation and connection. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you soon. Lots of love. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.